Frank Rain. I'm an infectious diseases physician at Abbott Northwestern Hospital, part of Allina Health, and I'm the principal investigator of the Ensemble trial. We're going to see today what the course of a subject takes as they go through the enrollment process, and I hope you'll find it reassuring and of interest to you as well.
Hi, this is Dr. Venkat Iyer. Good morning. I am the medical director for the medical specialties at Allina Health Group, and we are here today to record a video showing the flow for the patients. So I'm going to be the dummy patient walking in patient's shoe and actually showing you step by step what care processes we have taken to ensure safety for patients. So when a prospective volunteer comes for vaccination, they exactly know the path of getting to the study. Good morning, Dr. Ram. Let's do elbow shake. So I'm here to walk in the patient's shoes. So my first question to you, Dr. Ram, is if I'm a patient, where do I park here?
Well, first of all, let me welcome you to the Ensemble trial.
Thank you, sir.
We really appreciate you being here. So we have a parking structure right here, right across from the building. We're going to do this in. There's an entrance there. We're going to provide parking vouchers to all the participants.
So the parking is free.
Parking is free.
Okay, let's walk through. Once I park and come out of that space, there are signs directing us.
You'll actually come out right there.
Okay.
That's just for the car. Just to point out, we do have security involved in this. They're alert to the whole process, and they're very helpful.
It's reassuring to have extra security on site. And then I'm assuming the patients are able to see the signs.
So you can see that from the front entrance, and when you get here, you can see the next sign. So you can see why we directed people to that entrance, because this is kind of hard to find. But it's always best to start there and then direct people to the special entrance.
But this arrow is pretty good. She doesn't want me to come here. Okay. So far, Dr. Reem, what you have showed me that I've parked my car, I came out of the parking lot, I went through the signs, so now we're entering the building. So what next?
So this is just inside the special entrance. We have a system of 4 escorts that are going to direct all subject traffic during there. And part of that is our effort to make sure that people stay 7 feet away from each other at all times. So we are asking the subjects not to move at all, except under the direction of the escorts. The first escort is here. And what that escort will do will be to ask the patient the name, and there's a box full of packets here, and they'll pull out the packet for that patient, give that to the patient. Inside that packet is a consent form, a wristband, a parking voucher, and a lot of other useful information. We also will offer we'll also have hand sanitizer here. We also have masks here. We'll offer one of our masks. And when the first escort has done that, they'll refer the subject to the next escort, will be right there.
So I see 2 roles of the escort. One is to control the flow, and other is to ensure safety and direction.
Absolutely.
Right. So now I'm being escorted as a patient by the escort. Okay.
So the second escort is here, and the second escort is letting the patients or subjects into the check-in process. So this is the room where the check-in process occurs.
So this is a step 1 check-in
First
process.
thing, yes. Okay, so if you come inside here.
So Dr. Reem, now we are in the registration room. Can you walk me through how many registration rooms are there and how many subjects would be at one time?
So we're prepared for up to 20 subjects at a time. We have 3 registration areas, and if we get too crowded, we'll be able to have the patients stay on these various distancing circles while they're waiting to get to the registrar.
So we are very deliberate in ensuring safety and the CDC guide, following the CDC guidelines.
So if all 20 patients arrive at the same moment, we might have to do this. I don't think we'll do it very much. Mostly I think there'll be just 1 or 2 extra subjects waiting for the registration, because the registration process is going to go very fast, as you'll see in a second.
Is there this 2 or 3 rooms? How many rooms?
3 rooms for registration.
Okay, and that distributes the patient volume.
I think it's going to take about 3 minutes per registration. It's quite fast.
So let's just walk through for the registration.
So the escort will say, all right, please go into the registration room. And the escort will take you right here and have you sit down.
I see a registration person already there. Good morning.
Right in, please.
I'm the dummy patient for registration today.
May I have your packet? Thank you. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
So, did you bring ID with you today?
Yes.
Okay, and then I'm just going to double check your address here and your phone number that we had printed out. So can you confirm your address, please?
441.
And then do you have a preference between your cell phone and your mobile phone if you're to contact?
Cell phone, please.
Cell phone? And is it okay to leave messages there if we don't reach you about upcoming visits?
Absolutely.
Okay, very good. So we have a wristband for you. Now that we've confirmed who you are, it will come to you.
You can use that. No.
Have you had a sore throat?
No.
A fever?
No.
Have you lost your sense of taste or smell?
No.
Headaches?
No.
Any nausea?
No.
Diarrhea?
No.
Have you traveled out of the U.S. in the last 2 weeks?
No.
Okay, and I see your mask is well placed. Make sure they're made to be pinched here, and then we want to make sure it's covering your mouth, so under your chin.
It is okay now?
There are some water we give you, and you can have your own beverage, so you're welcome to sip that throughout the day, but try and just loosen your mask, take your sip, and replace your mask. So we want your mask in place as much as possible.
Thank you.
That's it. Unless you have questions, we'll have the escort take you out to the auditorium.
So just to recap, first of all, I just want, Adrian, would you mind introducing yourself for the sake of the video? Because she is not, she's just acting as a registration person. She is actually our research coordinator. So please go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is Adrian Darnauskas. I'm a Senior Research Nurse Coordinator in Allina Health Infectious Disease Research.
So Adrian, the main goal of registration is identifying, checking their ID, getting their phone number and address confirmed, going through a checklist for screening criteria, and then putting the wristband.
Correct.
Okay. So Adrian, what are you doing? I see after the registration you're wearing a glove. What are you about to do?
We want to make sure we disinfect every surface that each participant touches in between. It's part of our COVID prevention strategy.
Is that because the COVID virus can rest on the surfaces? So you want to be sure that you sterilize the surfaces?
That's correct.
Thank you. And as a patient, I'm getting more and more reassured that Allina has gone over and beyond to really ensure safety. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you for coming.
I'm escort 2 now, bringing the subject out and asking the subject to stay on one of the standing circles right there.
Oh, that's the
These
circle
two,
right
yeah.
there, okay.
And escorts 3 and 4 are out here, and they're going to take subjects in pairs down to Heidelberg Auditorium. So those two, the escorts 3 and 4 will be shuttling patients back and forth between the completion of the registration and the seating in Heidelberg Auditorium.
So again, I see these circles are 7 feet apart to again ensure that distance, social distancing or physical distancing. Okay. So I see the Heidelberg Auditorium, Dr. Rain, but wow, it looks pretty small, and you're saying there will be 20 people in this room with one sub-investigator, so around 22% in this room. What have you done to ensure safety?
So you're exactly right. We're doing something here that we don't like to do, bringing 20 people, or up to 20 people into a room. So we have gone to great lengths to try to make that as safe as possible, and I'll show you how we've done that in a second.
Yeah. Can we elaborate that before we...
Okay. So among other things, we are trying to discourage all talking. So we're asking the subjects not to talk at all. they'll be able to they'll be able to ask questions because we have a text number on each desk.
Why would you not allow us to talk?
Because talking produces droplets. And
Uh-huh.
droplets are the problem. Masks work pretty well,
Okay.
but we want to minimize the generation of droplets in the first place.
So how am I going to ask questions to you?
So there's a text number on every desk. People can text to that number any question. That question will appear on the screen and can be answered by the sub-investigator. So they'll be able to do it anonymously and they'll be able to do it without talking. At every turn we have tried to record the presentations of the speakers, so that the speakers will not be talking much either. So that's two things. Second thing you'll see in a second, that there's plexiglass on all four sides of all of the participants, and the participants are all at least 7 feet apart. And we'll see as we fill it, we're going to fill it from front to back, so people don't have to walk across each other. When we empty it, we're going to empty it from back to front.
So Dr. Rang, I have one more question. When in such a small room, aren't you worried about the ventilation and the air?
Absolutely. So we actually got that air change rate beefed up to 10, which is about twice what it is in an ordinary room.
And that will help to keep the air circulating and prevent spread of infection.
Fresh air, 10 air changes per hour.
Right? We're going to walk in.
Good.
Thank you,
And
sir.
we're also going to disinfect every surface every time someone leaves, like you saw already.
Adrian, so as I come into this room, I noticed some apps here or some barcodes. What are these all about?
So these are the QR codes for the 3 presentations that the participants will see in this room. We put them up here if they want to load them onto their phone or their tablet prior to sitting down.
So I'm going to try, go ahead please. I'm going to try and scan one of them.
Sure. The reason is that we know the sight lines to the main screen up front are not good because of all the dividers we put in. But we felt it was far more important to maintain the participants' safety than to have a perfect view of the screen. So this way, if they want to follow along on their phones, they can do that.
So,
Allina Health and the Ensemble study.
so I didn't understand what you're saying is I can scan this and then whatever is being shown on the big screen, I can see it on my phone.
Exactly.
And the reason you did that is because the screens, the plexiglasses are intrusive. This is so thoughtful of Allina. Thank you.
So remember now, I'm the escort. I'm your escort. You're the first one in. So I'm going to take you to the farthest seat.
Let's go.
You sit over there. And this is seat A1.
I'm going to
One
sit
more over.
in A2 for the time being so that we are recording and it can be seen.
So ordinarily, I would put him in A1. The next person would go into A4. The third person would go into A2. Fourth person would go into A3.
So as you can see, there is plexiglass and there are barriers around. So I'm protected from the other volunteer on the other side.
So all subjects are in masks. They have plexiglass on all four sides, and we're getting them to not talk. So after about 45 minutes here, patients will start to go up. There will be 6 or 7 patients initially that go up. So there's going to be waiting time down here. It should be about 40 or 50 minutes per subject upstairs, and so the subjects will be down. The other subjects will be down here with nothing to do. So that's why we've asked people to bring something to entertain themselves.
So what I'm assuming is as a subject, I need to be sure I come here with at least 4 hours in my mind that I will be spending.
Right.
Because that needs registration, questionnaires, and then post-vaccination information about how to follow up. So all of this will take around 4 hours.
Right. The complex stuff is about to start up on the 4th floor.
Okay. So having done here, now we are going to go.
Right. So the escorts will take them out of the back first, the first 6 out of the back or 7 out of the back, and take them in pairs in elevators up to the 4th floor.
Okay.
escorts 3 and 4 are going to be bringing participants in pairs to this elevator because we only let 2 people on the elevator at once.
So you're saying only 2 at once?
Yeah.
Okay.
And escorts 1 and 2, the first 2 are now up on the 4th floor waiting to receive the subjects as they go upstairs.
As they come out of the elevator.
So those escorts are going to be in immediate contact with each other, and no subjects will be put on this elevator until we confirm that there's E3 or E4 upstairs waiting to take them off the elevator when they get up there.
And how do the escorts communicate from this floor to the 4th floor?
They're going to have a walkie-talkie like system. They will all be able to talk to each other all the time.
Thank you. That is. As the subjects exit the elevator and they come to the 4th floor, they are met with the 2 escorts here. What happens?
So escort 1 is here, basically receiving subjects as they come off the elevator. The escort 2 has the biggest job of all, managing the traffic flow within Suite 403, which is where the individual interviews were going to occur.
So as they come out, are they supposed to be standing on the circles? Again, maintaining.
A pair will come out, and so the escort will put 1 there and take the other in to the room. And then when that subject is put in the right place, they'll come back out and get this one, bring the next one in.
Perfect. So at all given time, they're 7 feet apart.
Yeah.
So Dr. Ram, after we come into the room 403, which is your room on the 4th floor, what happens in this waiting room?
So this is a place for stashing subjects while traffic is controlled in the main corridor. You'll see in a second we have a complex problem there because the corridor is narrow and we have to make sure that the corridor is narrow and the escort is not going to let anybody more than 1 person in the corridor at the same time. The escort is going to be stationed there. If traffic has to clear, the escort will be able to put a subject here until traffic clears, and then that escort will take that subject to the next station.
So I'm assuming you have a system for the escorts to know when the room is free and not. So you'll explain that when we go there.
So I should say that in this area, subject's going to have to be weighed, height taken, oxygen level measured. They're going to have a long interview with a research nurse. They're going to have a blood specimen taken. They're going to have to be vaccinated. So there's a lot of stuff they've got to accomplish in there. The women are going to have to get a urine specimen as well because we don't want pregnant women in the study. So we'll do a pregnancy test in there. So there's a lot to be accomplished in that small space. And that escort is going to have to control the traffic so there's only 1 person in the corridor at a time.
How long does that process? That will take around 40, 50 minutes?
We are hoping it's going to be 40 minutes, no more per subject. It's going to be a bit longer, I'm afraid.
Okay, let's go and see that.
I'm going to take you to your next stop. And I can point out that we have 2 bathrooms, 1 there. We have 2 stations where weights, heights, and oxygen levels can be measured. And then we have 6 examination rooms here where the individual interviews will go on. Let's see.
And those interviews are to check the inclusion and exclusion criteria.
And make sure that all questions about the consent are answered and the consent gets signed.
Okay.
So these are the rooms where this area right here is we have an investigational pharmacy that has a substation here. So we have our own investigational pharmacy right in the area. So you'll see that that's locked. Only the pharmacists have keys to there.
Okay.
Because we have to make sure that there's no unblinding. The material is in there, the vaccine is in their freezer, and only the pharmacists go in there. They're the only people who know who gets the real stuff and who gets the placebo. And we can't go in there because we can't break the blinds.
But it's a double-blinded study, so as the investigator, you should not be knowing what drug who is getting.
So the only person on site who knows is the pharmacist who has to make up the vaccine.
Okay. So, Dr. Reem, I see these flags on the front of the door. What are they used for?
So this is the way we communicate to the escort what's going on. So the escort can take the subjects to the right place. So 1 flag says, take this person to the lab. 1 flag says, this person is ready for a blood draw. Mm-hmm. 1 says, I'm empty and I need a subject. So that the escort will know where the subject should go if this room is empty, and where that subject should be taken. So after all that's done, the next thing that will happen will be the blood draw. I'll show you where that happens again.
So again, the entire goal of this flagging system is to control the flow of subjects. So again, we are trying to ensure safety so that there's not too much crowding in this narrow corridor.
So the subject will be, the escort will be sure that there's only one person in the corridor at any one time.
Perfect. So, Adrian, so I'm the dummy subject now. I've entered this room. Tell me what happens here now.
So we would see you over here, and you're going to be here about an hour and a half, 2 hours. This is probably the longest piece of your visit. We have all the data to collect here. So first off, we want to make sure you don't have any other questions about the consent, and you're ready to consent. If not, you're welcome to take more time, send you home, or you can just take time here. But we need to consent you before we can proceed with any other study-related
I
procedures.
just want to pause there. So what I'm hearing is I get a chance to hear it out, and if I'm in doubt about consenting, I can leave the process and then come back next day or the day after once I made up my mind to consent it.
Absolutely.
But if I made up my mind to consent, I can consent right away.
Correct.
Okay. Please.
Correct. Then we go through what we call the inclusion-exclusion criteria, which are criteria to determine if you're eligible to participate.
Okay.
So part of that includes getting you weighed, getting your height. As you saw the vital signs station, we calculate your body mass index, your BMI. Once we determine you're eligible, then we can move on with the other activities here. We will have some questionnaires for you to complete. We will get information about your medications that you're taking, your past medical history. We will give you some...
So, can I ask you a question on the medication? So would it be helpful if I bring my medication list with me when I come
Absolutely.
here? So that would be a good thing to do for the subjects, to bring the medication list. It need not be on paper, it could be on phone, doesn't matter, till the time you have a list with you.
The more detail around that, the better. That helps us. We will then give you some instruction on the sponsor's app for filling out diaries and symptom surveys electronically as you go through the study. We have you take home a big kit of supplies. In case you should get some COVID symptoms, we'll want you to do some work at home, take your temperature, check your blood saturation, and we'll give you a device and information on how to run that. So we give you that packet and train you.
Okay. How about, does the package contain any material to take a swab in case I get...
Yes, it does. And you'll be happy to know that here we're not doing the swabs that go way, way back that people don't like. We're only doing the swabs at the base of the nose.
Oh.
So that's the one we're doing
Very
here.
convenient. Okay.
Yep, and that's the kit we'll send you home with.
Okay.
After that, we will send you across the hall to get your blood drawn.
I had heard Dr. Rain talk about if there is a female volunteer, a female subject in the reproductive age group, they need to do some more things.
We will require that all women that could potentially get pregnant have a urine test for
Okay.
pregnancy. So we will do that right here. It's a dipstick test, so people should know that we'll be doing that.
And the main reason is that pregnancy is a exclusion criteria for the
Correct.
study. And then, Dr. Rim, a question for you. If I am a female, imagine, and I got enrolled in the study, my dipstick was negative, do I have to take any precaution for first few months after getting the
So
vaccination?
we ask you not to get pregnant for 3 months after the vaccine.
And if a subject gets pregnant within 3 months after the vaccination, is it an automatic exclusion then?
No, we will follow them, but there's quite a bit of extra work that has to be done.
So I heard a lot about the word consent form and consent. Can you just tell me a little bit briefly, what does consent exactly mean?
Ultimately, the consent is a document that we're going to have you sign, but consent really is a process. So as you go along, we want to make sure you have enough information to make an informed choice about whether or not you want to be in this study. The consent has the document itself has all the details you're going to need to know, risks, benefits. It's voluntary, you can quit it anytime you want, and many other pieces. So before we go forward, we want you to sign that document, which is you basically attesting that you understand everything in the document, or you've had an opportunity to ask your questions. and we will give you a copy of that consent form signed before you leave.
That's nice. I do get a copy of my consent form.
Absolutely.
So a follow-up question on that is, say I consented to the study, I get the vaccination, and for some reason a month later I decide this is not the study for me. Can I withdraw from the study?
Absolutely. We would ask that you come back for one last exit visit. You don't have to, but we like to do that one to finalize the data and to make sure that you're safe and having no problems prior to your exit.
Absolutely. An exit visit will be helpful to kind of close the loop then.
So this is our two-station phlebotomy area. Here's where the blood will be drawn. We actually have a back door, you can see that in a second, so we can take the specimens to our refrigerator across the way, and they'll ultimately be taken to the Allina Commons laboratory for shipment. We don't have to bring the specimens out past the subjects that way. And that should be pretty brief. So this is the freezer. This is where the vaccine is. We have many doses ready to give to patients. This is where the pharmacists do their thing. And they're the only ones that have a key to that freezer.
So Dr. Raimi, why do you want to keep the vaccines in the freezer? Is that a requirement?
Yes, it's necessary to keep those at minus 20 degrees Celsius.
For keeping the vaccine viable?
Yeah. So we have 2 rooms for administering the vaccine. That'll be done by RNs in full protective gear. It should be quite brief.
So Dr. Raim, after getting the vaccination, do you have how long do you observe the patient? What's the next steps?
Initially, we'll be observing patients for at least 30 minutes after vaccine. After enough people have been vaccinated safely, then it'll be 15 minutes. The first 5 minutes we're going to do up here because we don't want to put anybody on the elevator in the first 5 minutes. And then they'll go back down. For the rest of the observation period, we'll be down in high lecture.
So just to recap, walking through the journey for the patient, we parked, we came in, got registered, we came to the Helicar auditorium, saw the video, then were escorted up to the 4th floor, which took another couple of hours there for the inclusion-exclusion criteria, got the phlebotomy, got the vaccine, and then we are now back to the Helicar auditorium for the last piece. So Dr. Raim, tell me what happens when we come back here.
So this is where the educational things that Adrian was talking about will occur. Instruction, how the electronic communication will occur, and we'll give information on what the follow-up is going to be for the study.
So how long would this last session last roughly?
So we're hoping to get the whole thing done in 4 hours. So 45 minutes here in groups, 40-50 minutes each upstairs, and then roughly 45 minutes, 50 minutes down here. So we get the whole thing done in 4 hours.
So what happens here at the last session is we basically get instruction on how to follow up, how to get registered on the site so that we can upload the symptoms, and then we are dismissed from here.
Right. So there's a lot of electronic communication required. They'll be asked twice a week to indicate electronically that they're having no symptoms. It's quite different if somebody gets COVID. I mean, that becomes more intense. If somebody actually gets COVID or symptoms that are suggestive of COVID, then the extra stuff needs to be done. But if nobody gets COVID, it's really, that's it for coming here. The rest of it will be done remotely. There will be some specimens required, but we'll send somebody to the subject's home to get those done.
So just to close the loop, last 2 questions. One is, how long is this study? What is the length? How long am I signing up for?
We hope people will continue to provide data for 2 years. The first year has the intense follow-up, and at 1.5 and at 2 years, basically it's just a phone conversation.
So in the first year, when you say intense follow-up, I heard you saying that 2 times a week I just need to upload some symptoms on the electronic website. Do I have to come for on-site visit?
No, that's it for being, you never have to see us again. You'll be pleased to know.
What happens if, and that's reassuring, what happens if in that first year I do get symptoms, should I be calling the research center
Absolutely.
here?
So we're going to ask people to contact us immediately if they have any symptoms that might at all be suggestive of COVID. And then you might see us, because one of us will be coming out there to do some examinations and collect some nasal. We'll collect the original nasal specimen. Will be done with the material we send them home, but we'll be giving them extra. We follow them closely. If they have a positive COVID test, we follow them closely until they have no fever for 48 hours.
So, Dr. Rim, last question. How does this trial, the Janssen and Janssen trial, differ from the AstraZeneca trial?
So there actually are 4 big phase 3 trials underway in the U.S. and soon to be joined by a 5th. They really should be looked at collectively. They all basically produce the same antigen being the thing which stimulates the immunity, but they do it in very different ways. And one of the reasons why it's so important to complete these trials now is that we want to be able to compare those different modalities to see if one of them works better than the other. They should be looked at collectively, and in my opinion, they're the most important research studies of the century.
And I heard, how about the number of shots that we need in this trial versus AstraZeneca?
So the Janssen vaccine is 1 dose. It's actually quite immunogenic, produces good immunity. The others are 2 doses each.
Thank you.